All gold found on Earth came from the debris of dead stars.
Plasma coming from the sun, which is solar plasma, and then you got the plasma in the blood, and we're like, come on, there's got to be some correlation here.
Yeah, there's a golden blood. It's the most rare blood on Earth, and only less than 50 people worldwide have this blood type. The blood groupings, the A, B, and O, started in 1901, and that's where I saw that it had ABO.
That is crazy, isn't it? 1901, they started this.
1901, when they started categorizing it.
And it has the abbreviation ABO.
ABO, yeah.
Unbelievable.
The golden blood was first detected in an Australian Indigenous lady in 1961.
ALICE.
Yeah, as in Alice in Wonderland.
Shut the fuck up.
Follow the yellow brick road. What's a yellow brick? Bricks of gold.
Helping Indigenous said that the government was never going to do that because they knew if they actually gave them and made them independent and wealthy again, there is no government. They will tear them down instantly. Israel narrative and why they would have called this Operation Rising Lion. Well, Rising Lion? Yeah, Rising Lion. Yeah. With Pope Leo, we've just had, anointed this year as well. So we've got all these references coming back to the sun.
Moments ago, Israel launched Operation Rising Lion.
So if it's got the enzyme, which is the DNA replicator, it's got the nanobots, the tech, the AI tech. I said to Nikki and Zelda, I'm like, fuck, they've already done it. They've already literally created transhumans.
So for the synchrotron to be looking at veterinary, Indigenous health in particular, not really everybody's health, but Indigenous, light beams that are emitting a light that's 1,000,000 times brighter than the sun, particle acceleration. What are they doing? See, the shrine has clearly only been activated in 2020 as well. And on the counter, they did the activation of Uluru in 2020.
Center point of understanding everything. So that's why you're going to extrapolate all these other things from it, because the world navel contains everything. Are these the pure last?
So all the gold found on Earth came from the debris of dead stars as the Earth formed heavy elements such as iron and gold sank towards the planet's core. If no other event had occurred, there would be no gold in Earth's crust, but around 4 billion years ago, Earth was bombarded by asteroid impacts. These impacts stirred up the deeper layers of the planet and forced some gold into the mantle and crust. Now, the only reason, just looking at that, when it said that gold is formed by the stars, well, how many of the origin stories are that we are the star seeds, we are from the stars? The Dreamtime certainly says that. I remember looking at that going, are they just our portals in from that other realm into here? Are we that star?
It's like the Lion King. That's what he says.
Yeah.
Doesn't he? He's like, they're the kings of the past.
Yeah.
I think the stars are a mirror of us. Even if you say that they're a projection to some level, I think that's what they are.
Well, it was interesting because with that reason that even came up, and I just quickly searched it now, was because we were talking today about obviously alluding from the previous conversations about gold. And I said, it's got to have something to do with us. The amount of blood we have, or gold we have in our body is so minimal. Hello, Donovan.
Donovan.
Hello.
You must be cold in Canberra. I heard it was 6 degrees in Bendigo yesterday. Maximum of 6. So I don't know what it's like there.
Hence the full lumberjack, bro.
Yeah. We're just having a bit of a chat. Nikki
You and I have been talking this afternoon, Donovan, about the gold, and I literally just looked up, and this will probably resonate with you, but I just found that they claim that the gold from Earth has come from debris of the dead stars. And the reason this is going to be significant is because we've been talking today about plasma, the plasma event, the solar eclipse, all these stories we're being told about what, the big thing that's coming. But it's all attached only to the sun. Yeah, we're full of plasma.
It would give so much more credence to the stories, whether symbolic or real, of like those that came down that came to mine the gold on the earth. They were here. They were literally here for the gold.
Yeah.
So if they're again, if you're interested in the universe and the human being and the gold is us, then well, it's like everything you said last time about it being memory and
Yeah.
fuck.
Well, and I rewatched that. There's a really cool Indigenous documentary, and I rewatched it last night. But I caught it differently. At the very end, an Indigenous man had said that the dream time and their strong belief is that we all return to the earth, obviously, when we die, when this vessel moves on. So if your spiritually soul returns to the stars or whatever you believe in, the heavens, as the story goes, and the soul of the vessel returns with the blood and all the minerals in this vessel to the earth that then helps form the gold. Hence, there would be an obsession with gold and draining it out of the earth because if it's us,
Mm.
if
It's
it's
like,
that soul force,
yeah, it's like capturing souls or like hiding it away, isn't it? Fuck, it
yeah,
like gives a whole different meaning to it. I love just the thought pro. Well, do you know what? I've actually been recording, so I might even put that bit at the start with it.
yeah.
But I'll just say, yeah, for those that are joining, um, Donovan and Nikki and also Zelda have been on a bit of a wild thought process that's lots of different pieces have been put together, which Nikki put a lot of them together, and I wouldn't say all because even in the 2 hour video that we did, you really just scratched the surface. But I guess that's why we wanted to have this on, and particularly Donovan, just the way he nuts things out. And it's been quite a while, Donovan. And also, Nikki, your audio sounds good now. I don't know if you've like fixed it. Remember,
Ah,
it's like really shitty, like the original
I
one.
think it was the volume. I think it was all
Oh,
volume. I had it down too
it's
low.
good now. Is that all it was?
Well, you know when you watch a video and someone's is really high and someone's is low, and you're like, oh, every time it changes, it's like you can't hear that person. And then it was too, anyway. I think it was volume the whole time.
Yeah, well, I'll just say it is much better. Anyway, Donovan, how you
Oh,
going, mate? How are you?
Yeah, great. Just uh, trying to recover from today's 50 rabbit holes we went down. This happens every day and it has for like what? How long is it now,
uh,
Nikki, since the first shrine video?
well, 2.5 years, I think that was.
Mm.
Yeah, and then when we connected with Zelda and we started our group chat, that's that's not even that long,
No,
really.
5 weeks,
Month?
maybe 5 weeks.
Seems like an eternity. But
Mhm.
is my sound all right?
Yeah.
If this like makes noise, just let me know.
It's not bad. Well, Donovan, do you want to maybe just share for like people that are listening because I guess you've been doing this behind the scenes. Nikki's been sharing it publicly. So, I mean, go back and watch the last one Nikki did if people haven't seen that. But like, do you want to maybe tell us where did you enter in here and what were you able to piece together, or what do you think of this whole thing where it's going?
Well, synchronistically, of course.
Yes.
The same thing that led Nikki to the original, like the whole damn thing, was a piece of granite, a granite piece of rock. Actually, I've still got it here in my van, as I do. Remember that,
Yes.
right? It's a granite, it's a little granite disc, which I found randomly by a river. And that's what led me to Camp Makata. And then 5 years of unfolding of everything we've been through. But when she started talking about the granite, my ears pricked up because of that and the journey that granite led me down. And I was like, there's got to be something in this because this didn't happen by accident. And then when you guys started talking about the granite, the foundation stone of the shrine, and we were talking about the water contains the memory is within the granite, okay. And then we were talking to Dane. And I connected with Dane about down at Maruya and that being Granite Town and the granite quarry there, which is what created the granite for the pillars on the either ends of the Sydney Harbour Bridge. I started going, hang on, I'm getting all these other synchronicities about being down there in Maruya before I even met Dane and standing at a church and wondering what that was about. So if people want to know more on that level, go back to, it's actually pinned on my Facebook. But anyway, so that's what originally led me to really start listening and following what you guys are uncovering with the shrine. And then also having worked at Parliament House, the two major curved walls that look like the sign of Pisces, if you really look at it, inside a circle, the parliamentary circle of Parliament House itself, we're talking about new Parliament here, they're both granite walls, right? They're massive. That's the main part of the design building structure. And then as time went on, I started to realize, all right, all the courtyard paths in the building, pink granite, all the red path that runs around the native gardens around the outside circular area, which is all native plantings, are red crushed granite. So it just kept coming up. And the more that Nikki kept like finding out more about granite, we just, in the end, I just actually reached out to her. We got talking. I don't know. It's all a bit of a blur, to be honest.
Yeah.
But that's what really got me going. And then also the parallels between the foundation stone in the shrine and what's directly under the flagpole on Capitol Hill in Parliament House. So directly under the flagpole, you've got a pyramid-shaped, what's it called? What's it called? You know, a light, a natural light coming in, a skylight.
Oh.
Directly, right? And it's the only flagpole I know of in the world that's like not attached to the ground. It's only attached by the supporting beams, which actually create a pyramid in itself. So it's like this pyramid in the sky, right? It's like floating. And then directly under that, there is this laser cut. And I know because I used to give tours as a gardener there. There's a laser cut cube of black granite, and the water flows evenly over all sides. And then that started to relate to the foundation stone in the shrine, the light coming in. And I was seeing like another fractal of the same thing. And then as we started talking, I would go hang out while I'm talking to Nikki and listening to a voice notes. I'd go to a local cemetery in my meal breaks. And the local cemetery was a mausoleum, and it was Christ the Redeemer. And that's going way back for you, Dale, where you were talking about what was going on with Katy Perry at the time, Christ the Redeemer, and then her tour, and then all the things that came from that. So I walk into this cemetery, which I'd been like walking there, just walking around, listening to voice notes and stuff and podcasts, but I never went far enough. And I went in, and there's this mausoleum, Christ the Redeemer, and I went in there and I was seeing all the same things I was seeing at the portico. You had the 1111, which related back to the 1111 with the shrine. And then it was in the cemetery itself was like all this Freemasonry symbolism, particularly on graves here in Canberra, right? So it's like the second biggest graveyard we've got. And you're seeing the compass in the square everywhere. You're seeing a lot of the Star of David everywhere, right? And then when we started to move deeper, I started to see it as a little micro fractal of all that we were discovering with the symbology in the shrine. And just down the road from the Woden Cemetery is Canberra's probably biggest club, or one of top clubs, the Hellenic Club. And this was right around the time that Nikki was uncovering connections at the shrine with the Hellenic Memorial, which is part of the shrine grounds there, right? And then we started looking in, hang on, what's the connection here with the Greeks and the Jews, right? So Greek Jews, Hellenic Jews. And it was just like, it was so uncanny for me at that stage where I'm like, okay, I'm not really sure why, but I'm supposed to be part of this conversation because I'm having personal synchronicities with what you guys were unfolding and uncovering. And then Zelda's also been getting her own personal synchronicities. And this is where I've got this weird claim that when we start working with the shrine starts working with us. because it's got this energy, this vibration, and then ley lines and all your work with with Rachel and all your live events and all of that I was having more synchronicities with that, with stuff I was looking into to try and understand the symbology of the shrine, but then it would take me off in little synchronistic paths with what your work and what you were doing, Dale. Like I ended up down at the Bushfire Memorial and found a portal ley line there, and I did a ceremony down there and did the lay love down type work, and and it just keeps happening. Like it's crazy. It's crazy.
I love it. I think you and Nikki you're the same in that respect, that because Nikki, you're very much guided on intuition. I know you like said with the last video, you're a bit daunted going into that one. You're like, I don't know, this is pretty fucking out there. But I think the more you've trusted in like putting what you've put out there, that because other people are finding connections too, do you know what I mean? And then it's like you're approaching it with not having to be right, but you're like, there's something here, and the more that you pick at it, the more that you're finding. So I think you're the same, Donovan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do we want to get into today, and what do we miss from the last talk, Nikki? Because I know there was still a number of slides we didn't get into. Do you want to go there, or do you want to go somewhere else?
No, we could probably, I think we need to touch on the gold, because even today,
Right.
Donovan and I chatting, even with Zelda, there's stuff that's coming up with this synchrotron and the gold and the plasma that we've only just really uncovering, well, understanding a bit more, even literally as of today. So I was just mentioned that little bit about the gold and how it's formed, but watching this Indigenous documentary, and the gentleman saying, an Indigenous man at the very end saying that, where the Dreamtime belief is that we go back to the earth when we're done here, and we become part of the earth again. So I'm like, well, there's got to be something they know about the gold that is so important to go to the levels that they do, as we've mentioned. And I think it's got to be, and it's because it's formed over such a long time of neutrons and electrons and different protons, same as us, and different minerals from the earth that then combine and then creates along these riverways. So it's shared and combined with the water. And yeah, I've looked at the synchrotron, we've all looked at it and gave this accelerator, the particle accelerator. Well, what is that? Like, what are we accelerating particles for? And even just some of the stuff Donovan did today, just looking into, you can share this part because I can't remember all the stuff you just said to me, but we're like, okay, so are they collecting the gold? So for the synchrotron to be looking at veterinary, Indigenous health in particular, not really everybody's health, but Indigenous, light beams that are emitting a light that's 1,000,000 times brighter than the sun, and accelerate a particle acceleration. What are they doing? And then, of course, they're doing the gene therapy, they're doing the magic juice. So what are they doing?
It's true. Is that why have you got one facility that is looking at exactly what you said, like these types of things? So, I mean,
unless they're trying to find a way, because if you look into gold, it takes it's either hundreds or thousands. It's a long time. Oil in the ocean is thousands of years for that to form, from breaking down and then just the minerals forming it. And gold is at least hundreds of years. So if this particle acceleration is actually speeding up this processing of the human biology from whether it's a waste, which is why they potentially needed to rip all these, because I did remember reading about the bones and why they were extracting them from the ground, because they realized they weren't finding what they were looking for in the living skeleton. So they needed to find it from, well, like they assumed, and that's potentially what they did find. Hence, they kept digging up remains. So there's something in the decomposition of the body that they were looking for. Maybe it's even just to work out how long it takes for that to happen, to then use some sort of particle accelerator to speed up this process of fabricating gold or something else.
To go to what you said about like the stars being the gold too at the start. So I don't know, like I'll just check this out because I'm doing Tom Barnett's Natural Law series at the moment.
Yeah.
And he, like today, he's just talking about it, just made me think about it. because Tom always says this. He says like you have the gold within, right? That's
Yeah.
what he says. And he was talking about what wealth is. He did like a whole thing today on wealth, and he said like, speaking about money, wealth, but then like the real wealth, and he was saying like gold is real wealth because it
Yeah.
comes from the land, it has real value, it has real use, and it's actually a mirror of the gold that you have within us. And then you send me that link of like where the human body actually does contain
Tango. Yeah.
a small amount of gold. So it was just a weird correlation that he's actually said that
But
today.
then it's also the plasma in the blood, which they call liquid gold as well.
Yeah.
So same as what they call with crude oil being the black gold, like yeah, and the plasma in all of us. So that's why
They do all the human trafficking and stuff through war zones and stuff. That's what they say the plasma that they extract is actually worth the most from the body than anything.
Sounds about right.
That's interesting because I was talking about that with Nikki the other day. Interesting as I was going through this, starting to look at blood, and it reminded me of other synchronicities I was having around 2020 with the frickin' Swiss flag, right? Which looks exactly like the Red Cross. And I know around that time I kept getting this sort of like, I don't know what you want to, just these feelings and thoughts like Red Cross, bad, Red Cross, really bad, right? And I'm like, why is the Red Cross always in every war zone throughout history? Like it's always there. And yet the Red Cross is where you donate your blood to, right? My dad's a massive blood donor. Like he loves it. He wears it like a trophy, you know? But yeah, I mean, and then if you think about the red and the white, so you got your white blood cells and your red blood cells. You take it from here, Nikki, because you're on this better.
Well, actually, I was going to jump to just quickly. It even makes sense. Even I was watching, like, saw the Channel 7 symbol last night, and I saw the 7 and the plus. I'm like, oh yeah, the red, the white, and the cross, like the blood bank. So I'm not sure what the 7 correlates to, but it would be something. And then Channel 9. Where's Channel 8, by the way? Right now, real Channel 8, is there? But Channel 9 and 10 are in the blue. They're in the blue and white. So they're the blueprint.
That's what Annette talks about, that they intentionally don't have a Channel 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the 8, it's like hidden. It's missing.
Right. Okay.
I think it relates to Neptune or something. Anyway, yeah.
But it was just why this blood one came back up and then it led us back to the gold is literally Zelda just in a passing conversation with passing chat. She just left a voicemail about one of her friends having, she's quite unique, but she's one of those gold blood people. And that was it. Like gold blood, that's right. What's the story with gold blood again? I looked it up. Yeah, there's a golden blood. It's the most rare blood on Earth, and only less than 50 people worldwide have this blood type. So when I was looking into the blood types, though, and apparently the blood groupings, the A, B, and O, started in 1901, and that's where I saw that it had Abo.
That is crazy, isn't it? 1901, the start of this.
1901, when they started categorizing it.
And it has the abbreviation Abo.
Abo, yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and the reason that's again significant is that the golden blood was first detected in an Australian Indigenous lady in 1961. And the reason they said they couldn't work out why this lady wasn't basically dying because her blood or golden blood apparently has no antigens in it. And again, here I go, what does an antigen do? What is that for? So and again, I'm not a medical expert by any means. So, but what I can gather and why they couldn't work out why she wasn't getting sick, the antigens seem to be what they use or what we have in our blood that makes viruses and bacteria or anything else stick. So it gives that virus something to hold on to and travel through the body. This lady doesn't have them. So it's like those viruses and bacteria can't enter her or anyone that's got that blood type.
Are these the pure last
I would say so.
feeding?
I would say so.
Like these are the true marks of this realm?
I would say so. And that's when I sent you that thing. Actually, Zelda looked it up to see what the golden blood and what's the obsession with the gods and the gold. And in the ancient Greek beliefs is that the gods were the ones with the golden blood. So this Indigenous lady would have been deemed a god because they're untouchable. They can't make them sick. They don't get sick like us. It doesn't work on them.
And I told you in the Sanskrit text that the golden age translates to golden race.
Yeah. Yes.
It's the
Yes.
people that are gold. Okay, like I hope people wrap their head around that. Like, fuck, that is
It's massive.
and
And now
you got to think of like everything, not just in the modern eugenics programs, but eugenics that has gone on for thousands of years, and it's almost an obsession to find out who these people are,
yeah.
and or to learn from them first, but then also to eradicate them. And I think it goes to that biblical passage where it says Adam left the earth to God left the earth to Adam and his seed. And it's like these Canaanites have hijacked the human bloodline. We know they've done like genetic tinkering and stuff, and like none of us have pure human DNA. We're all mixed with something. You can see it in like the brain even, but fucking, I think that's massive.
It is, and is that why then they're so obsessed with the Australian Indigenous in particular? Is because there's obviously more. Maybe they found more. I did see another one that said the guy was detected in 1957, but all the stories seem to come back to this lady in 1961. But both Australian Indigenous. So it's like they have discovered. So if Australia, for example, if Australia's got so much gold in its earth as it seems to have, has a very large portion, especially Victoria, and they're finding, and as you said, I think they're opening up another gold mine in Bendigo. And I heard there's more opening up in all the southern Victoria because they found lots more gold, then it would lay claim to that these people have passed or perished over time.
Yeah.
And that's where all the gold is.
Yeah.
And the gold rush in the 1800s, they're like, there's a whole heap here.
Fuck.
Then they had to test the people because that is art. It's them.
And then you think the other parts of the world where you've got a lot of gold, you've got San Francisco, which is right near the base chakra of the earth.
Yep.
And then you've got all the gold hidden in the Vatican, which is on like another key point. And then the other, like South Africa is the other one that's got a shitload of gold too, which was like when the Boers came over there, they say like the land was almost empty, like it had been cleared out. So what happened before that? Because the modern day South African, most of them they're not Zulus or whatever, they're not from that nation. They all came down. So that's probably another protect. And then look at everything that's happened in South Africa. Fuck, that's a good.
Well, that's right. But if you look at so if the gold veining in Australia is because of the Indigenous people that have inhabited here for such a long time, and that's the remnants of those vessels, and they've worked that out, and there's a whole heap of them here, because that's why all of a sudden Melbourne is now front and center. And I sent that article to you. And I didn't know what it meant, but it had that headline to that Amazon one, which we forgot to mention. Amazon donating 20 billion, and most of it's going to go to Melbourne. Some will be to Sydney, but most will go to Melbourne for AI. So it's all for data collection, AI, and renewables. Okay, why? Again, it's a bit random. AI and then renewables. I mean, are they not? It just doesn't make sense. Anyway, but then they had on that article. That's what jumped out at me, because I didn't really care about the AI story, but it's that Melbourne was going to come the beach. Was it the beachhead?
The beachhead.
Yeah, and you jumped straight to like what, World War II, because that didn't mean anything to me. I just knew it was a strange thing to say.
Yeah,
and that's what they're pitching for Melbourne. They've just said that. And why'd you put that line in the article about Amazon? What's that got to do with Melbourne and Amazon coming here?
Yeah, and
because that took you straight to World War II.
Yeah, well, that's just, would you be the same, Donovan? When you hear beachhead, I just think Normandy, right? Like D-Day invasion.
Well, as soon as you said it, it occurred to me. I'm like, yeah, wow, like.
Beachhead. Yeah, the only time I ever.
And that was what, 3 weeks ago? Yeah. So with all the stuff they're moving to Melbourne, the activation of this synchrotron. So it had 10 beams. They added another 8, but they've only turned on 5. So there's 3 more to be activated.
Yeah.
And then they're going to get rid of it in 2030s.
And then ditch it.
So whatever they're brewing or whatever they're doing.
What do you? Well, actually, I'll let Donovan. Do you want to jump in there, Donovan? You got anything to say about that before we?
Yeah, just give me a second so I can bring up the response I got, because we're working with, AI because it's very interesting. And also we've all learnt that you can get a lot of information very quickly, very specific, right?
Yeah.
And we've all, and I've experienced it too, as Nikki's shared with before. We think there might be a good one and a bad one because sometimes it'll actually go back on what it said.
Yeah.
And you question it again. It's, oh yeah, sorry about that. And
Yeah.
it happened to me today with the ambergris and the bioluminescence, right? I'll get into that in a bit, but what I wanted to share, just bear with me, I'm just bringing up the tiny little message about the Hadron Collider, right? Oh, where is it? Down here. Where is it? Where are you going? So obviously we're looking at a Hadron Collider. What does it do? It smashes particles at very high speeds into each other, right? And we were trying to work out the connection to gold. So I asked it and found out that the Large Hadron Collider in CERN in Switzerland, right, had a program called Alice. Have you heard of it, Dale?
No. Alice.
Yeah, they named it Alice.
Alice.
Yeah, and then of
you
course,
got the
Wonderland.
and then you got Alice, ALICE.
yeah, as in Alice in Wonderland.
Wonderland.
Shut the fuck up.
Follow the yellow brick road. What's a yellow brick? Bricks of gold.
Yeah.
Follow the road to the
Oz,
gold,
in
right?
Oz. The road
And just
to
a
Oz.
quick
In
note,
the,
and
in the
Alice,
land of Oz.
and of course, Alice wears the white and blue. She's got the blueprint on. Just to chuck that in.
Yep. So, just quickly, got to find it here. Won't
And
be a
Albo's
sec.
dog's named Toto, just to
Yeah. And we have an Emerald City in Sydney.
Dude,
Garden.
do you remember literally the day he got elected, like a few years ago, that was front page of the paper and it said Toto. I'm like, the dude's just won the election and all they were talking about was his dog.
Dog. Okay.
Anyway, so go on.
That's funny. All right, so I asked AI, okay, the Large Hadron Collider is deep underground, right? So tell me about the experiment like Alice, where they turned lead into gold as a byproduct of high energy collisions. And the response was this: the Alice experiment at the Large Hadron Collider, which stands for a Large Ion Collider experiment, that's where they get Alice from, right? No coincidence there. Smashes heavy ions like lead nuclei together at insanely high energies to recreate conditions similar to the Big Bang. Okay, yeah, whatever. In these collisions, the intense energy can cause quarks and gluons to form a quark-gluon plasma. And sometimes, as a rare byproduct, nuclear reactions transmute tiny amounts of lead into gold-like particles. It's not gold you'd mine or wear, it's more of a fleeting microscopic transformation detected in the data, showing off some cool nuclear physics. Pretty wild, right? So, because we were looking at, we were talking about the two plasmas. So you got the plasma coming from the sun, which is solar plasma, and then you got the plasma in the blood. And we're like, come on, there's got to be some correlation here. So we've been talking about how the gold in the blood and how that's relating to the sun and the activity from the sun, and what is the sun actually doing that creates the gold. And I think Nikki's already answered that, like practically earlier. But to think a Hadron Collider, a byproduct of smashing these particles into each other, is a gold-like, gold-like particle.
Yeah, it just like refers to like that they're playing gold because it's like they've done like this weird form of alchemy. Do you know what I mean? With in the way that they're doing it. Remember that was the whole concern around CERN when they first turned it on. They're like they're going to blow up they're going to like suck the whole universe in. It's like who gave them the authority to do this? It's not even run by government.
Exactly.
Is it like who the fuck?
Exactly. And obviously Uluru being the heart and the heart chakra. And even in the human body, most of that minimal amount of gold we do have, it is around the heart.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Yes. And they keep all this heart activation. So is it this activation of gold, even though it's only a tiny amount?
Yeah, all those videos I did on the hero's journey, when I was looking at all these movies at the end, there's so many times it happens. So it'll either be like it fades off into the sunset, but they show, or like Jesus is the best example. You watch any of the Jesus movies, he basically just fades away into the sun and becomes the sun, like the whole astrotheology thing. But it's actually saying that the human being is like, because the sun is gold as well too. So the human being is this luminous kind of thing. It is the gold. Like, did you ever see the movie Gattaca?
Yeah.
Do you remember at the end, because he takes on his altar of the guy Vincent or whatever, and then as his last sacrifice, he gives him all his DNA, and then puts himself into a furnace, and he was like silver. He had a silver medal because remember he'd lost. He never was a winner, and he was meant to have the best genetics, and then the furnace and the silver metal turns into like a gold.
Yeah.
It's like a good example. Do you know what I mean? It's like telling you that like that is the end goal is this gold.
Well, and that's interesting. That's why I think the gold itself is human remains, or predominantly human remains, because silver is obviously the counter. It's the AI. Majority of silver is used for AI, so the artificial side of the gold. So obviously the two polarities. Both need the water though to form themselves, but it also puts more credence to if they put this shrine on an ancient indigenous burial site, and then they're charging the earth below it with the ray of light. So they're charging this stone that goes back down to the ancient burial grounds. They don't deny anywhere that it was an indigenous burial ground where they put this building.
Yeah, it's like they want you to know.
Yeah.
It was almost important that you know.
Yeah. And then they've gone and said the repatriation of those bones that were uprooted from graves, they've gone and put them back at the shrine. Now
that's why it made sense to me. Like when I was looking at the World Naval, that's what made sense to me why they put Barak down. They had to, because it says within the World Naval, the hero must be present within it, and he kind of is the story of the hero. Even though they're mocking him, they need his energy in that building to make it alive.
Yeah. So they even said that when they repatriated the 38 remains that are there, they didn't necessarily come from there. And I'm sure there's a lot more there that they're obviously never going to disclose. But they just said they put the reason they decided to pick them in that spot, they said, oh, it's just because we didn't know whereabouts from Victoria they came, so we just put them all here.
Yeah, you wouldn't go take them out in the bush somewhere, like go chuck them in
the
middle of the CBD.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah, and my God, hasn't the University of Melbourne got a lot to account for here?
Yes.
Dude.
Like, that's crazy, because remember, there's one character in our story we've been unfolding that you skipped over last time, Nikki. So you talked about Sir William Colin Mackenzie, right? And obviously his work becoming Healesville Sanctuary, right? But then his collection ended up being a collection that they sent here to Canberra, where they created the Institute of Anatomy.
Yeah.
Right. So his whole collection ended up here in Canberra, and that was only for a time. I can't remember the exact year that it was around the 60s, I think.
Yeah.
And then also, who was his mate?
George Murray Black.
Right, George Murray Black. So the full collection ends up here in Canberra, and then after a time, they just gave it to the National Museum, and it's now part of the National Museum, and the Institute for Anatomy doesn't exist anymore. It's now, and another synchronicity, when we were talking about this a few weeks before that, I met my dad and my sister, and we were in that building having a coffee after we watched this whole art exhibition, like live AI photographic exhibition of cockatoos. And then we started talking about that building, and that was the building where they held Sir Colin Mackenzie's entire collection, which, by the way, at the time also had Phar Lap's heart. Right? which is believed to now be in the hands of the National Museum, which some speculate is actually not actually Phar Lap's heart, and that it was like a, some other horse than they made out it was, and all that. And it's almost like, yeah, okay, so what's, again, we look at the heart. But the other character that I thought was really interesting in this, and this is really just for the historical element, right? Not so much the gold and the Hadron Colliders and all of that. But let me just find quickly here. Um, okay, got it. So there was a guy called Richard James Arthur Berry, right? Now, he worked with Sir Colin Mackenzie. He was actually kind of his mentor in a way, right? So I'll just quickly read. Richard James Arthur Berry studied at the University of Edinburgh. So there's the Scotland connection again. I also have the synchronicities with Scotland and Robbie Burns and Robert de Bruce, which I found out again. I'm like 21st great-grandson of Robert de Bruce, founding member of Scottish Rite Freemasonry, which is all the symbolism we see in the shrine. Anyway, moving along. So Richard James Arthur Berry studied at University of Edinburgh, earning his medical degree there in 1891. As for eugenics, Berry was indeed involved in eugenics circles, particularly during his time in Australia. He advocated for eugenics policies like sterilisation for those deemed unfit and mingled with others who shared those views, common among some early 20th century academics. Hang on, just got to go to the next one. So particularly eugenics and beyond all his contacts, right? I was asking about Melbourne because that's where he came here. So he had a lot of contacts in the eugenics world and beyond, focusing on his time in Australia and Edinburgh. Berry was a big name in Melbourne's academic scene as Professor of Anatomy at the University of Melbourne from 1906 to 1929. He was deeply tied to the eugenics movement, which was a mainstream idea among some intellectuals back then, aiming to improve human genetics through selective breeding, or in Berry's case, more extreme measures like sterilisation and even euthanasia for those he labelled mentally defective, which he was trying to prove that the Australian Aboriginals were mentally defective and were like a lower class of, like they're basically animals. He wasn't just a fringe figure. He moved in influential circles in Melbourne. Berry was a key player in pushing a eugenics agenda. He rubbed shoulders with prominent figures like Stanley Argyle, Victoria's Premier, who was a friend and colleague. Argyle tried to pass mental deficiency bills through Victorian Parliament, which was the main parliament back in those days. In 1926, 29 and 39, influenced by Berry's ideas, although those bills didn't pass. These efforts show Berry's sway in academic and political networks, as Melbourne was a hub for federal government activity early in the 20th century. Berry helped lay the groundwork for the Eugenics Society of Victoria, founded in 1936, which kept going until 1961. Even after he left Australia in 1929. This society included a mix of academics, doctors, and middle-class reformers who bought into eugenics as a path to social efficiency. Berry's work, like his craniometric studies, where he used to measure the skulls of Indigenous people, with disabilities, tied him to this crowd as he tried to link skull size intelligence, a discredited and racist idea. Back in Edinburgh, before Australia, Berry was already building a network. He studied medicine at the University of Edinburgh, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, sorry, that was a bit boring, but
a lot of it was, it sounds like, was to almost to get the public, because like eugenics was a big movement in the early 20th century. It was almost like to get the public indoctrinated enough to the belief that these Aboriginals are not humans. Do you know what I mean? And that there should be selective breeding and that there wouldn't be a bad thing if we at least bred them out or mixed rate or whatever it might be.
Yep, yep. And that led us to the collection of the bones and the grave robbing. It's just like at first, the way that it presented, I was like, oh, they were trying to wipe them out. But the deeper we looked with Nikki and with Zelda, it's actually looks like no, what they were doing was they were needing to extract their information, but make everyone look over there, as they do, look over there while we do this over here.
Yeah.
Right. They realize they're the gold-blooded ones with the DNA, and that's what they need.
Well, it maybe was not even like all the indigenous, it's like specific ones, isn't it?
William Barak bloodline. He's clearly had a very significant bloodline.
Yeah.
For him to be positioned the way they've kept him. Because there were plenty of men that went with him to fight and try and stop the land being stolen. He was the leader, but there were plenty of others that don't really name, and they certainly haven't built a building for him. There's something very significant about him.
But Donovan, you might remember this. Remember these ones where Lumpa, one of the guys up there, wasn't Jumra, it was another guy, and they were talking about they got a gift of the sword from the Queen, right? And the Queen acknowledges that I can't remember who the guy is, so I'm sorry if anyone knows who you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do. I remember.
Dude, he was in like a wheelchair and that. I'm not sure if he's still alive. But they've got it. They've literally got this sword from the royalty, and it's given in recognition that these are your people, this is your land. So on that level, with what we know about the royal bloodline and that, even they, I shouldn't say bow down to, but they even have to acknowledge because of the bloodline who these people are.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, from memory, my memory serves me to say that it was King George V's sword.
That's right.
And she handed it back to the elder. And once that was received, she said, right, take your land and take your people and take your land back. Right. And then today, Nikki, what was that thing you found out about it? We were looking at the documentary, right? And there was the tax with Gina Reinhardt. Playing optics about the tax, the mining tax, right? And then you can explain this better than me, Nikki, but the end result being that if they did actually pay what they're supposed to be paying, it would bring down the government. You explain it better than me, Nikki.
So on this documentary, there's a clip there. It goes into the government and there's a lot of political stuff that's added in there that's actually happened. But there's a clip there with Gina Reinhardt, and she's in WA, of course, promoting stop the tax, stop the tax. And the way the public is perceiving this stop the tax, it was the tax to the public, which ultimately, if it went through, it would have been. But the tax was actually the permission that the elders had given for them to take the iron ore. So the tax was the money that was supposed to be paid to the tribes for the Indigenous to get out of poverty. So it was something like, I can't remember, I think it was 60 million they would have gotten out of the tax, which obviously would have ended their poverty. It would have given them homes and everything else, which if you see this documentary, they live in like sheds. It's hideous. And that didn't go through. Gina won the people over and conned them enough to believe that tax was for them, but it was actually to pay these big corporations paying their mining taxes to the people's land they were extracting it from. And that never happened. But the commentary from a journalist who specialises in studying and helping Indigenous, said that the government was never going to do that because they knew if they actually gave them and make them independent and wealthy again, there is no government. They will tear them down instantly, as in the Indigenous will tear down the government. They'll be gone. Parliament's gone. It's over if that ever happens. So that's why they never got their money. So hence they're living in hideous conditions and still to this day.
Yeah.
But I just want to add something. And actually, Zelda found this article when we're talking about gold, and I only read the highlighted part. So it's just a little tiny piece, but it actually will correlate to the whales we've been also talking about in the last one. So gold is an illuminating, sacred, and durable. It is precious. It's almost universally associated with the sun, the highest stage of spiritual development. The first is black, sin, and then penitence, then white, remission and innocence, then red, sublimation and passion. It is heralded as embodying the powers of the earth. It is the light. It is the heart of the earth. So it is symbolic of superiority. Has many symbols of fertility. The tree of life is supposed to have gold roots plus wealth and abundance. Its immunity from rust brings connotations of immortality and incorruptibility. It's an amulet for wounded people. It's interesting. Along with being the heart of the earth, gold represents heart, love, and blood. In Melville's Moby Dick, sun, blood, and gold are together. Combinations of a golden apple is immortality. Ball is wisdom, sun, chain, honor, dignity, respect, and wealth. Which will then kind of lead into this Iran-Israel narrative and why they would have called this Operation Rising Lion. Well, Rising Lion? Yeah, Rising Lion.
Rising Lion,
Yeah.
Yeah.
With Pope Leo, we've just had, anointed this year as well. So we've got all these references coming back to the sun.
Good correlation, because I remember when he got, what are they called, canonized or whatever, and you were like, Leo, why Leo? And we're like,
Yeah.
like,
That's got nothing to do with his name. Like, it's not even anything like that.
well, yeah, well, they always pick a name, don't they?
Yeah.
But yeah, so he went Leo.
Went Leo, and then we have with what's going on.
And
then
I pointed out like the obvious one to me was just because like Daniel, who was like held in the cage with the lion and stuff, he was taken to Persia, like Daniel from the Bible. And
Yeah.
he's apparently is still, they've got the grave of Daniel still in Persia. So I thought it could be some correlation, but yeah, where did you get with that?
I haven't gone through that whole Daniel one yet. So that's the next one. But that sort of brings in, so if they're going to call this war with Israel and Iran, and like we mentioned briefly in that last video about now the exodus of the Israelis fleeing to Melbourne, where they're going to be safe. Melbourne also has the highest number of Greek just outside of Europe. So oddly enough, then the beachhead reference from Amazon coming over and donating all this money so that synchrotron and everything else can be rebooted. So whatever they're activating it in Victoria. And then the shrine, you got 4 lions on the corner of this building with the sunbeam coming through the middle of it. They're charging all for something.
Mm.
They got rid of the water. They got rid of the female and added the flame. So the flame is always connected to the sun and gold as well. So they're charging this building for something, or they're certainly, as we've referenced that they're using it as a portal. It's going to become more and more prominent. There was something about a car charged. Oh, the shopping centre in Northland. There's been several attacks now on a shopping centre in Melbourne's north.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to drum something, because obviously putting up those bollards at the northern entrance of the shrine last November. It's been there 90 years. Why are we putting up bollards down the northern entrance now? But now you've got all these particular shopping centre attacks. There's been a machete attack, a car ram rage, and there was a fire or something else happened there. All 3 events have only happened in the last 3 weeks. And that building the shopping centre had only just been taken over by a Greek billionaire the month prior, of which he died 3 weeks after taking on this shopping centre. To now all these attacks have suddenly happened within a couple of weeks of him passing.
What's with all these
I have no idea.
Because like there was Westfield, remember?
Well, Northland is
and then it went over to,
Yeah.
then it went to England, and the Taylor Swift thing was at Southport,
Yeah.
and then this is Northland. Like, right? There's something going on there.
Yeah. And the bollards have ended up on the northern entrance of the shrine.
Yeah. Do you know what I've thought about those bollards? Because I remember they put them in Bendigo, and it was around that 2015 time when there was big car terror attacks like every every week there was a new car terror attack somewhere in the world, and that's when they put them up in Burke Street after there was 2 incidents there. But the whole point is to stop it, like them rampaging. But then would that mean at the shrine that you're going to get, like, you might get something in and then others can't get in? Like, what? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they did it in they did in Bendigo in the main street in Bull Street, where we had rioting about the mosque, and then they put bollards in at the same time then too. But yeah, I think that's the lions on the shrine too, on all the buttresses.
Yeah. I mean, they don't have anything to do with the Anzacs. Nothing.
Well, again, and the other thing, because Zelda and I talked a lot about the tarot symbology, right? And it actually led me to do a little bit of deeper research on how the tarot actually came about. And I sat back and I went, my God, it's Jewish symbolism. The tarot itself is like totally Jewish symbolism. And it just never occurred to me, right? But when you look at it, and the shrine is just embedded with tarot symbolism all over it. It's insane. Yeah. We've got the strength card. We got the Hierophant in the double cross leading up, right? We've got the high priestesses in there, you know, with the pillars, and we've got just so many. Wheel of Fortunes in there. The sun, the star, it's all there.
But that's why I was saying it's the World Naval, Donovan, because the World Naval has everything in it. So it's like, because that's what when we first started looking at it, we we're like, oh, it's a whatever symbolism. And the more you look at it, no, it's got all of them in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what really resonated with me with your video about the World Naval the other day, growing up as a kid, okay, so flat or globe, whatever, it still works, right? Because a circle has no beginning, no end, and a globe is a globe, right? Growing up, I was like, I don't understand East and West. I had real trouble integrating the idea of an East and West, because I'm like, well, if I'm standing here, that way is East and that way is West, and then if I go West, that way's still East and that way's still West. I'm like, there is no such thing. It is only according to where you currently are at, where you exist, where you're standing, is East or West, depending right? And that's when you said the World Naval and the mountain is everywhere. I was like, yeah, that's exactly how I felt about that, even just growing up, just pondering that concept.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so it is you, but it's also, the shrine is an example of it's you and it's everything.
Well, that's what I got to listen to Tom today too, because he was saying the importance of any type of movement, whether it's like speech or physical, and that went into the whole spiral thing that you learn through experiences, which is like movement and doing. And that's what the World Naval is. It's like, it's all the movement, but then it's like the stillness, which would be the black stone in the middle. And that's the opposite. That's like when you go to bed at night. Do you know what I mean? So you have all these experience, and then you have the pondering and the integration when everything's still. And that's when you preserve or you mold everything. And it's the same way with the sun. Everything's on the outside where the sun's shining in. There's all the experiences, and then once a year it shines in and hits, and then all that energy then goes into the stone.
Well, that's right. And like, so if you go to the shrine, in order to get to the stillness, the foundation stone, where it says greater love hath no man, in order to get to the stillness, you have to go within. You have to go inside.
Yeah.
So it's
did you see that bit in the video? I took that all from the audio book, like the first chapter of the audio book from Joseph Campbell, and he even uses the word half.
Yeah.
And he says they built a shrine on this. It literally it talks about the light must come in. It must have four corners. It has a place of sanctuary. Like it's got.
Everything.
I'm tripping out listening to this. I got this book and it's the first chapter, and I'm like, shut the fuck up.
And how old is that book?
Oh, it's like from the 80s or the 70s.
Yeah.
It's old. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know what he did is he studied all the world's religions, tribal mythology, everything, and he realized that it's it's all one thing. He said there's little
Yeah.
intricacies that are different, but he said it's all one story, and that's how
Yeah.
he formed like it's like the synthesis of myth is what he calls it.
Yeah.
And so you can see what this shrine is now too, because it's an accumulation of everything that's in existence all into one building, and
Yeah.
that's what would make it a perfect place to play out a death and rebirth ritual, because that's what the building is.
Yeah. Well, and this whole like I'm just looking at the narrative behind the whole rising lion, and the rising lion being obviously referring to the awakening of the Christ consciousness, the solar self within a person rising from the lower nature, the ego, to the higher nature of divine will. And then similar to the Lion of Judah, representing the messianic lineage, spiritual leadership, and triumph over divine truth. So for them to call this whole spiritual war now, and it's obviously you two have been talking for a long time about the whole, if it ever happens with Iran, this is the game changer.
I can't believe we're here.
You're here, and they're calling it the rising lion. And it's a spiritual war that we keep talking about. And then you've got, if the Israelis are fleeing now to Melbourne in a large degree, they're charging Melbourne for whatever is going to happen there.
Do you think we're looking at what could be like a full, like we've seen like mass immigration from like Syria and all these kind of countries after all the wars there? Like, is that a possibility in Israel that like millions leave?
Yep.
They said there's already 60,000 in Cyprus now, and a lot of them are getting abused on entry. Have you seen these videos?
No, I haven't seen them.
They're coming in on the ports and people are saying like F off and stuff and like waving Palestinian flags and stuff. So it's like the tension's high.
Wow.
But when I saw that video, I'm like, okay, could you picture, like, again, it would just be a perfect spark for Melbourne. You bring in 100,000 Jewish refugees, also in a housing crisis, and then some other instigating attack occurs, and then we've got a shitload of Muslim immigrants as well too, and you've just got this melting pot in Melbourne.
Yep.
Because everyone's looking for a major attack in Europe and America, and no one's really. Like, have you seen, Donovan, how much it's been discussed by all the political pundits now? They're all saying, oh, there's going to be an attack in America. Like, we were talking about this in Jason like years and years ago, and it's in the mainstream. They're really setting the stage for that. But maybe it's here. Maybe it's not.
Yeah, exactly. And I was saying to Nikki and Zelda, because we started to really think about the movement of people around the planet, right? And the migration, the exodus kind of effect of millions of people coming. So if they destroyed the northern hemisphere, they're all going to move south, aren't they? Right, to the land of milk and honey.
Yeah.
Right. So and you'll remember this, Nikki. It got me thinking about the 12 lost tribes of Israel.
Yeah.
And it made me think about what Clint said about the tribes are coming back together. Remember that, Dale? And I'm like, is there some weird thing going on here where inadvertently, even though the New World Order, one world government, one world agenda, one world religion, right, are creating all this Kalergi plan movement of people around the planet, right, to play out the script, have they actually created a rod for their own back where they're actually bringing the 10 lost tribes back together and they'll end up here, right?
That's how it always works. It's like,
right? Yeah. And there's a microfractal of a flood happening right now on this land, like Katitanda. All the water moving through the desert is like a little micro version of the flood.
But then they're creating that too.
And they're manipulating the weather. So
to make it fill up. That's why I'm like, well, are they creating that future event where it does actually get to a capacity that it floods again, because they're creating it? They made those rain happen in the southeast of Queensland and northern New South Wales that started filling it from that avenue, and then they started doing it in South Australia to fill it from the other side.
Yeah.
And it'll keep going.
We didn't get into that last time, did we? That was like your last 7 or 8 slides.
Yeah. Still got work to do on that one.
We'll say that for. Well, do you know, like I've been up there in the dry season. My uncle's up Cape York and stuff at the moment. They've had to like pull over for days because they couldn't get up there because it's rain.
Wow.
It doesn't fucking rain there in June.
No.
Like, it doesn't rain a drop. It doesn't rain at all.
Mm.
So yeah, it's very weird.
That is weird. Wow.
Um, where else do we want to go here? Do we want to get on the whale? Actually, can I just read this guy that I found today? And
Yes.
I'll leave the link in here as I just because I was just looking up Operation Matchbox, right? I was dying gone. Anyway, I found this guy. His name's Leaderberg, always a berg. Uh,
Yeah.
anyway, and the reason I found him because I was trying to look up see if Colin McKenzie or any of these other characters were actually part of or worked with these Matchbox scientists who were taken over just like Paperclip. They did in Australia and Germany and New Zealand and a lot of other places where they were bringing them in, where they weren't bringing in any Germans anywhere except for these guys. And we know about like the NASA scientists and stuff like that, but we don't know so much about the ones like the biologists and stuff. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? We know about like all the psychologists and stuff that they brought over. I'll try and find this bit here. Oh, here we go. So 1957. So he's an American Jewish guy that was he was working with a paper, or not the paperclip, but the Matchbox scientist again in like Melbourne University. So I just read this bit. 1957, Melbourne University, Joshua Lederberg from Fort Derrick received a Fulbright, which is like this money to work with Melbourne University. It was just a program to work with Sir Gustav Noble, Sir Frank McClure, and to study clonal section theory. Now I looked this up in Wiki. I don't fucking understand like to do with cloning. They basically almost like what they do with like with vaccines. It's like they're talking about R receptors and all this kind of shit. I don't get it, but they're basically like you create like um, another like bit of the bacteria. But listen to this bit. So Lederberg was a key individual in the creation of bioweapons and the first discovered bacteria that can swap genes. He is also connected to bioweapon research in Fort Derrick 1949 and later became the president of the Rockefeller University and member of the Defense Science Board and Mysterious Jason Group, which was like, this is the stuff they were doing with like super soldiers, like deep underground stuff. Lederberg now advises the government in biological weapons and potential bioterrorism training. So this was like, and he only died in 2008, but he was American known molecular biologist known for his work in microbial genetics, artificial intelligence. He won a Nobel Prize. But I'm like, this was a guy they were collaborating with, was doing collaborations at Melbourne University, and it was linking into this um, Leonis Petraskas, which was another guy, another scientist they brought over from Lithuania that was doing all the mind sciences. So it just shows you like the link, like what we already know. But again, with like, and they were doing experimentations on. He was a eugenicist as well too, and working on ways to bioweapons for certain Asian groups. So like this shit's everywhere. But there was like a whole wave of these like open eugenicists in the early 20th century.
Yeah,
So,
it's crazy. Yeah, go Nick.
no, I was just going to say, what was that? What did they call it? The R, something R. Was that the to do with the vaccines or something they were making that you just
Yeah,
read?
yeah.
RNA.
No, it's just got R because I just when I was reading at the natural formation of gold, this is what I read out earlier. You weren't here, but
Receptors.
didn't you say something? It was no, it was the actual letter R, not a word.
Oh, okay.
Was
Yeah.
that there? You just had it there?
Nah, nah.
I think you just said that. I think you might have read it. That's what it
Oh,
said.
did
But
I?
anyway, maybe not.
Hang on, I'll just skim through. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah, but I'll read this. So the natural formation of gold, while nuclear fusion with the sun makes many elements, the sun cannot synthesize gold. The considerable energy required to make gold only occurs when stars explode in a supernova or when neutron stars collide. Under these extreme conditions, heavy elements form the rapid neutron capture process known as the R process. And that's why I thought you just said something about R with the gene therapy they were doing. Maybe not.
I'm just reading over it again. Maybe you're just hearing what you want to hear, Nikki.
Maybe you might have said the word R as in
Maybe
A.
it's on your brain.
But I heard R, the letter R.
No, I heard it, but this is all right. This is getting into the territory with the luciferase, right?
Yeah.
Now, so what? I'll try and put it in out of the chaos into some kind of order. But we got onto the ambergris, which is so just to quickly recap for people, right? The sperm whale dives down deep and it eats squid, and the squid beaks can't be sorted out by the gut, so they start to coagulate over time, and then eventually the whale shits it out, right? And then that got us looking at squid, and that's where I looked at squid and found out that they have the ability for bioluminescence, which is so bioluminescence is creating your own light, whereas biofluorescence, which a platypus and a wombat and 125 other species have, is where you absorb UV light and then you re-emit that light. So, but they're on the two different ends of the spectrum. So looking into bioluminescence, I was like, so what is the chemical, process that creates bioluminescence? And it turns out that it's a molecule called luciferin and an enzyme called luciferase, right? So then I go, okay, well, what's an enzyme? Now listen to this, and it's given me a theory about what they've actually been up to with the Geno juice, the magic juice, right? I'll give you my theory at the end, but I'll just read what is an enzyme. So hopefully this is it's still interesting to people because it gets real technical real quick. We're literally becoming rocket scientists, bioanatomists,
zoologists,
spiritualists.
That's what Nikki said before. She goes, I'm a fucking zoologist.
Look out, Bindi.
Yeah, but this really hit me really hard. I was like, wow. So I said, what does an enzyme actually do? And it says enzymes are proteins that speed up chemical reactions in your body by lowering the energy needed for those reactions to happen. They don't get consumed or used up in the process. So in other words, enzymes stick around, right? Whereas a molecule can be actually used up in the process, right? They don't get consumed or used up in the process. They just help make things like digestion, and here it comes, or DNA replication faster and more efficient. Okay? So just to finish that off, enzymes are key players in DNA replication, speeding up the process so your cells can divide and make copies of your genetic code super efficiently. DNA polymerase is a big one. It adds nucleotides, the building blocks of DNA, to form new strands by matching them to the original template. Okay. Another enzyme, helicase, unzips the DNA double helix, opens it up, it unzips it, right? The DNA double helix, okay, to expose the strands for copying. All right. Ligase seals up any gaps in the new strands, and primase lays down short RNA primers to kick things off. So these enzymes work like a well-oiled machine, okay, and ensuring DNA replication is fast, accurate, and doesn't stall out. Without them, copying your genome would take forever. And errors would pile up. So this is where I went. Okay, try to get your head around this, right? So we've heard this idea that the Geno juice has luciferase in it. We kind of heard that thing. Now, one school of thought is no, luciferase, the enzyme, is only used in the preparation, in the studying to work out how they can put in markers that will light up with bioluminescence to see how it can ward off apparent virus, right? That's one thought. But if this luciferase is actually in the Geno juice, right? So when they've done live blood studies, they've so-called seen luciferase, right? The enzyme, right? So it's a DNA replicator. And then they've seen the nanobots in the blood, right? These nanobots. So I'm putting two and two together. It might be a bit out there, but I'm going, okay, so what is going on here? Have they created a blueprint where the enzyme, the luciferase, opens up the DNA, and then they're using something and they're inserting a new blueprint of DNA into the double helix? And then where that leads me is I go, hang on. So if it's got the enzyme, which is the DNA replicator, it's got the nanobots, the tech, the AI tech. I said to Nikki and Zelda, I'm like, fuck, they've already done it. They've already literally created transhumans by inserting AI robot as a DNA replication. It's now in the strand. So the people that are running around that got the genojuice are literally half robot, half human, and the ones that aren't are still human. And that's just where my mind went. But you see, when you find out what an enzyme is and how it's a DNA replicator, you could actually see how they could do that. Is that it might be a bit simplistic, my view on it, but
I like it in that terms.
Yeah.
it means that they've already created androids, like half robot, half human.
Yeah. And it's like we know it's been the goal all along, but it's like with the stuff that you guys have found, like you can actually see with some of the stuff that they've been doing, like that's been the obsession the whole time, hasn't it?
The whole time, and the fact that they did, like we mentioned on the last one, that's why I put that picture back up of them doing the transhumanism AI man blend with machine on the shrine.
On the shrine.
Why would you put that on that building? We've got so many art exhibition buildings that would be appropriate. A war memorial is not.
You know what I think it is, Nikki? I think that like the resets happen and they cannot control it. They have no power over it. All they can do is, because the reset is a form of artificial intelligence itself that creates the reset. So all they can do is find all the people, sync them to technology, and they become part of the reset. And those that aren't, that stay, you like stay with the earth and like stay with what's organic, then are not filtered through to the next reset, do you know, or like the next compression of like the simulation. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense.
And then they just go on like this whole warring thing for the next couple hundred years to find them all again before to like keep it all trapped. I don't know.
Pretty exhausting trail.
I know, like fucking give up on the game.
Yeah, and wiping the memory, right?
Yeah, the memory, yeah.
And if the memory's held in the water, held in the stone, then again the shrine is like literally representing everything we just said.
That's right. Because they're
Right,
charging that
it's
stone.
like it's being used for a ritual and like a reset ritual too, but it's also you can see the counter of what it's doing too. It's actually quite beautiful because it's actually showing you everything as well.
Yeah. Well, like I said, from the very first video, to me, it was the water in the granite that was talking, so to speak. But it was not wanting to be used what they're going to use it for. Hence, the more awareness that goes to it. Not doesn't again, like everything.
Is that where you got out of it, that it was going to be used not for what it is meant to be used for?
And the natural elements being the water and the granite didn't want to partake. But it's got, it's a physical. It can't just walk away. But it can pass the messages through us, and which would explain why they were so specific about the granite they chose.
Yeah, where they got it from, and then
they were hunting high and low for that granite. It wasn't just just get some granite or get some bluestone or get some whatever, but whatever we can afford or whatever's easy. No, they were very specific about trying to find this particular granite.
Yeah, and you said they never used from that quarry again, did they? It was
only when they did the renovation, they went back and got the same granite.
I think on some level, those rocks have agreed to be part of that building now because that's what's communicated with you. Remember I told you the Bendigo Cathedral when I was looking into that? That stone came from Geelong in horse and cart days.
Yeah. Like, why?
This is like when I was looking at the Bendigo Cathedral. The Bendigo Cathedral is the third biggest church in all of Australia. It's huge.
Massive.
Massive Gothic cathedral. It's only one big as St. Paul in Melbourne and one in Sydney. And they got the stones from Geelong. Now, Geelong's a 3-hour drive from Bendigo in 2025. So I don't know what it was in 1870 to cart those
horses.
And it's beautifully made. Yeah, and coincided with a fire, the Great Victorian Fire,
Oh, yeah.
1851, that basically wiped out most of Victoria in 1851. Yeah, fuck, we don't know anything, do we?
No.
Well, no, and this is what happens to it. And what I love about so Nikki puts it all together in some kind of like logical form, right, to work out what's going on with the shrine. I'm coming in with stuff that I'm looking at. Zelda's coming in with stuff that she's looking at. Now, what's interesting about Zelda, like she has spent a lot of time in Israel, right? She knows Hebrew symbolism really well. She knows tarot. She knows just a lot of symbolism in general. And she'll get it'll be pretty scattered sometimes. Like Nikki and I'll be like, oh my God, where's she going with this, right? But every now and again, she'll just like nail something and we'll go, oh my God, I can see how that relates to that. Where was I going with this? So so the symbolism. Okay, that's right. So what happens with Zelda is Zelda has this habit of going, oh, it's all really beautiful, all of this, right? But what I've noticed with our journey, the more we look into this and we unlock and decode all of this, it's like you get a choice. You can go down the dark path and go, oh my God, this is the New World Order one. This is what they're doing. This is what they're planning to do. This building represents, the headquarters or the battery to create this AI dystopia, whatever. You can go down that road, or you get through the symbolism and you end up going, oh my God, this is like a microfractal, everything to help us wake up and understand ourselves. And when we understand the shrine, we'll understand ourselves better. And when we understand ourselves better, we actually literally become the example for everyone else on how to navigate, I guess, a reset or whatever they're planning.
That's the world naval too, is all that is bad and all that is good.
Yeah.
As well.
Interesting.
Right. And that's what, yeah.
No, I was just going to say, it really highlights, not ignorance, but we've all been walking around this building and the cities, even, the whole Tatari and stuff, and you sort of go, oh yeah, why aren't there windows on the footpath? Like you didn't look at something until someone said, don't you think this is strange? Because I've been to that shrine so many times as a kid, I thought everyone knew about the Ray of Light, never thought a thing of it until I watched Indiana Jones. And I put that on by mistake. It was the wrong one. I was looking for a relation to a Jordan Peterson movie about the Temple of Doom. Was it the front? And then I just watched that part. I'm like, oh shit, that's the shrine. And hence I had to watch it. So it was a real fumble into finding it and then going, but I've been to this building. And you don't even look at these 4 gigantic buttresses and lions and chariots and Roman helmets and think, that's not strange.
And not to forget Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
But that's how the conscious mind works, because there's stuff like that like I remember being embarrassed because I found out about Tartaria stuff when I was living in Europe. So then I remember walking to work every day going, what the fuck? Like, how did I not notice this?
How did we not notice? Yeah.
But that's how the conscious mind works. But
it's just like just up the road too. You've got the Melbourne Arcade, and at the entrance you've got Gog and Magog, right? Which is the script we're seeing play out right now between Israel and Iran. Sorry, with the Middle East. So Gog is supposed to represent all those countries that we're told are the big scary enemy, right? Russia, China, the Persian era, right? That's supposed to be Gog, and this great war, the attack on Israel. And it's like, it's literally playing out now. It's like, what's that doing in Melbourne at the front of the arcade? Right?
Yeah.
And it's like the script is right in front of you. Once you see, you can't unsee. Like you did. It's great. I mean, it's exciting.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
It is, because even like obviously the shrine has clearly only been activated in 2020 as well. And on the counter, they did the activation of Uluru in 2020.
True.
So is it because they were very aware? And obviously, Donovan and I had said something 100% changed in 2012, because it was in 2012 that the Indigenous have said to start reclaiming their original names of sites like Uluru and things like that, rather than being, Ayers Rock. And these names started to change back to what they were originally and should be. So it said, well, something clearly changed. Even, this whole end of world didn't happen, but some end of something happened.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it even gives me a like, because like with the AFL at the moment, they like change all the teams' names for a couple of rounds, and it's like
Yeah.
it's frustrating. It's like I'm a St Kilda supporter, and they're like, "What the fuck's my team called?" And it's like this real patronising thing to the Indigenous.
Yeah.
But then I can actually see another side of it too now
Yeah.
as well, like from what you've said, because those names have like they haven't really come from the people; they've come from the land itself.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So yeah,
Yeah.
fuck.
Yeah, that magic box ceremony. So
Mm.
I go to funny places with that. So magic box, I think of the black cube, right? Mecca, all that, all what we know about the black cube. And I'm like, well, if there was a magic box that was activated within Uluru, right? What was really interesting about that time was we had these key little players, characters in our cyber world that became viral and became really famous right after
Yeah.
um, that ritual, right?
Yeah.
And you had, and that's what brought Dr. Charlie Ward on the scene. And what was he talking about? Talking about the gold, talking
Yeah.
about the silver, talking about the gold.
Was that
And
the
I'm like,
first thing? Was he talking about like Uluru at the start?
We might have been.
well, because he started
Oh,
getting
he had because he
JCK
had
on, and the
JCK
reason
on,
she
didn't he?
went,
That's right. Okay.
yeah, yeah, and that's when she went viral,
Mm.
right? And the funny thing is, and we were talking about Murray Black. I actually took part in that ceremony from out in the Brindabellas here in Canberra, and I went to a place that I just felt drawn to play my part in the ceremony. And the place that I went to is called Murray's Crossing.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I look back on these things now and how it's and what we're looking at now, and just
But
like,
like
it's
something really did happen there
crazy.
though too. If you think of like because obviously yeah the shooting stuff or like those rituals at the shrine in 2020. But remember when the Strongs came on and did that presentation for us on Sky Earth, and they were
Yep.
showing us like all around the world, Nikki, not just and like you could see them at all really like all these sky formations that happened straight after. Like something did happen then.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, there was a string of them. Hey, Dale, do you know I after I heard Stephen Evans Strong with STE,
mm,
right? I was like, right, that's it. I emailed the head of biology at the Australian National University at the ANU.
did you?
Yeah. And I'm like, well, these guys have uncovered this, and you guys are like ignoring it. And why don't you let them come and just do a presentation? What harm can there be? And if not, why not? You need to explain what you're so scared of. And I got no response, and I
Shocker.
emailed a second time, still
You're
no
too, you're too
response.
aggressive, Donovan. You've got to change your tack.
Oh, maybe it's because I went to the Gosford Glyphs. I picked some energy up, and I'm like, right, that's it, let's go.
Yeah. Oh wow.
So funny, but yeah. Actually, I've got to download my Carry On Live so I don't lose it, because what's the date today? I don't even know.
23rd.
Um, yeah, we've got 3 days before Meta's changing everything and they're going to do their book burning. You're going to lose all your lives if you don't download them.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, modern day book burning.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
really?
100%, because I did the Carry On Glyphs, and I'm like, so want to be able to go back and look at that. But if I don't download it, they're just going to wipe it, and it'll be like gone forever.
Hey, me and Jacob were talking about the other week, Nikki, how like no, like people don't trust a lot of these AI videos and stuff
Yeah.
now, of just people.
Yeah.
And he even sent me a picture before through, and one of his friends thought it was an AI because he's kind of made it look crisp or something. I don't know if he altered it. And he's like, but then now we're hit like a war scenario,
Yeah.
and like we're seeing these bombs and that. Like we have no idea. Like we don't know, do we? We don't, and that's where we're at. That's where technology's brought us to. That we're so questioning of
Yeah.
anything that's not happening directly in front of our eyes.
Well, the only thing we can say on that is just because obviously Zelda does have friends that live there. And I think they've sent video, have they not, Donovan?
In Israel.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
sent some private messages to say, what do what's it like? And they're like, yeah, we're in the bunkers.
Yeah.
But again,
So
is that a natural reaction because that's what they've been programmed to do? Like Zelda said, even living there, you are doing drills all the time about getting to the bunkers. As soon as we're told, oh, there's a virus running around killing everyone. Is there?
Mm.
Yeah,
So
yeah, 100%. It's like the cyber attack that, what do they say on the weekend? 16 billion passwords,
yes,
right?
yes,
Apple, Google, and Meta,
yeah,
right? And I put up a post saying, well, a cyber attack's a perfect false flag if you think about it,
Yeah.
because the average person, it's unprovable.
yeah,
You can't touch it. You can't prove it. You can't, right? And it's like, what an ultimate false flag, because then they just go, right, this has happened. Now we're going to usher in this, new laws, legislation, whatever,
Well, they got
based
ready.
on what?
Yeah. Well, aren't they bringing in that you got to sign on Meta too if you're over 16, so like the digital ID.
yeah,
Yeah, so that's, but you can kind of see now they're putting in the media about, Iran can do whatever they can to Israel, but they can't attack America because they don't have like intercontinental ballistic missiles and all this kind of stuff. But they're saying but they can attack domestically through proxies and terrorists or cyber warfare. That's
yeah,
kind of what, do you know what I mean? And so, and I can even see like a perfect scenario here because have you seen the Australian RAF are we're sending
yeah,
military planes over to Iran,
yeah.
like to take. They're not hostages or whatever. They
No,
can just get on a plane and just leave
like,
themselves. We don't need to send. Why are you sending our military into a supposed enemy? It's
yeah,
so open for sabotage. And imagine if they like got a hold of like the RAF pilots, whatever, and now they've got Australian military in custody. Why would you put all you have to do is if you're the foreign affairs minister is just put out a call. Any Aussies living in Tehran, we advise that you leave. Like you can fly out. You don't
yeah,
need anyway. I just thought of that. I'm like, that's so open to some sort of fucking manipulation with that. But who knows?
yeah. And it's the whole, even this, because obviously all this cyber stuff is a clear push for digital ID. Like, I don't even get how they're going to sell that works. Because if they can hack the computers, well, that just means they can then hack you. No longer like, I can't have my paper documentation anymore. So how are you selling this? And going, yeah, this sounds
But
great.
that's the one thing they're trying to sell it. But then on the other hand, the government systems keep getting hacked and
Hacked.
people's banks keep getting hacked. So it's like, why?
So why would you do it?
The only
But
thing
it,
I
but
do, the only thing that they've kind of like been able to mold people into is having like a non-part. Because like I've got like everyone else, I've got 400 passwords for 20 different.
Yeah,
And the only reason you have them is because every 6 months they don't like your password.
yeah,
And
exactly.
then, and then it goes, sorry, you've used that password before. I'm like, yeah, because it's my password. That's why I want to keep the
Yeah,
same one.
exactly.
So you have to keep altering a number and then you forget. Oh, it's just a nightmare. And I'm like, yeah, if you just had one thing, if it was just an iris scan
Yeah,
I get in, that would be a lot easier. But it's been made that way.
exactly. And like you said, most of the time it's probably agencies that are doing this alleged hacking anyway. Like,
The only one that has the capacity to mass data hack or site is an intelligence agency.
yeah,
yeah,
No one else.
100%. That's
No.
what I wrote in my post. I said, like, the gov courts that are pushing through the legislation, famously, who's going to be the ones actually doing this? And it's going to be
yeah.
the Five Eyes intel agencies.
I'll show you this one, Donovan. Every time you're on the news and there's like a hacker story, they always have a picture of a guy like this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Uh, yeah.
He's like,
Who is this guy?
there's like they're like cyber attack, and there's like
Yeah, this
it's
guy.
like some dude because they're trying to program in your head. There's some fucking like swordfish kind of like
Woody
Eugenics
wearers.
character that's like in his basement. It's a fucking intel agencies, you idiots.
Uh,
Anyway.
yeah, everyone look up Unit 8200.
But
That's
even like with Facebook, because they're like, "Oh, Facebook's been hacked." I'm like, "Facebook is the CIA. Who hacked
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
someone hacked the CIA, did they?" So funny.
Yeah, it is funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well,
But
do you want to end it up, or do you want? Is there anything?
I don't think there's anything else.
oh,
What
I
about
just
you?
I wanted to
Tom?
join that last little bit of dots between your creation story with Uncle Juma
Hmm.
and the whale. So we're looking into the ambergris. Okay, so it's worth more than gold. Blah blah blah. The royals are smearing themselves in it. Having it for breakfast on their eggs. And Zelda's got some pretty high ideas about what that might actually be doing, right? but then finding out about the luciferase and the sperm whales. Now, sperm whale has this amazing process that it does to dive deep into the ocean, with 3 or 6 kilometers deep, right? And where they eat the squid have got the bioluminescence, which means they've got the luciferase in them. And then it's believed that maybe the whales, you were saying this earlier, Nikki, that they might be actually just shoveling along the sea floor, taking in the squid, and then with the squid that they eat, that might actually make the teeth glow and light up the teeth to attract the squid. Now, what I learn about the sperm whales, if you look at it, like what the process they have to go through to go into the amount of pressure that you get on the bottom of the ocean, which could literally crush you, it's freaking amazing, man. Their rib cage has to actually contract to protect the heart.
Yep.
And the oxygen, they move the oxygen out of their lungs so that they don't get the air bubbles, which would make them explode, right? So I'm looking at all this, and then you've got when you come to the surfaces, you got the opposite effect, like equalizing when you scuba dive. If you come up too quick, it's the same thing. Your oxygen will nitric oxide or nitrogen, I think, would literally kill you if you come up too quick. So there's all that. So, but what's interesting is the way the whale moves through water, right, and the squid as well. I was like, there's some parallels to space there. It's really bizarre because for a squid to move, it has to suck in water, and as it pushes the jet propulsion pushes the water out, it makes the squid move backwards, and it goes through a little siphon, and the angle of the siphon is what determines which direction the squid goes in. So squid, they swim backwards. And I'm like, oh, it's funny. It's like space. Now, if space is a vacuum, so they say, right? I was like, I wonder, you use the term jet propulsion when looking at how squid move. I'm like, oh, that's funny. That's a bit like how satellites and rockets in space move. And it got me thinking about this concept of the watery universe. Is space actually like water, right? And when you look at it, the rocket scientists have actually looked at the processes within a squid and a whale, a sperm whale, and how they move and regulate temperature and stuff. And they've used bio inspiration from the whales and the squid in order to work out how to navigate out in space. Right, because in space, if once you move, you just keep moving in that direction, and they got the little psh, 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 which is the same process that the squid moves to change the angle of where it's trying to go to get away from its prey. It's just funny that, and then your creation story about the whale. You just remind me how it goes again. The whale hitting.
Well, he said that the whale is what brought creation in, and so the whale actually came down and hit this construct, and then out popped the sun, the earth, and the moon. So the whale was part of creation, but the whale didn't come from here. It's not from here. It's almost like it's another dimensional species, and that goes into the Gnostic stuff too, where they say that the above realm is the water's above, and that's, I've always thought the whale, because he said the whale is like intuition and memory, so it's like when we see that, it's reminding us of something. It's like kind of like reminding you of home, but it's like the whale's not from here.
Yeah, water's above, that's right. And as Nikki was saying, like with the Tiamat, water is creation itself.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting. And then also there was one more bit with the whale.
But sorry, that's why they do, because in the whale dreaming, they do the story of the whale coming out of the water, but it's the same that he said, because it's coming from above, and then it comes down and then it creates all physical reality. So it left the water and came into the physical, and they do that in the ceremony where they do the whale coming out of the water onto land.
Yep. And also, side note, sperm whales have the loudest sound that exists in the animal kingdom, right?
Yeah.
And it's even said that if they pulse out a particular click or a sonar frequency, they can actually blow up, like destroy a human body.
Yeah.
Wow.
And again, that's kind of like we talk about how we think whales have this ability to talk outside the construct, right? To talk to space. and other alien race beings, well, then it makes sense in a lot of ways. With all that sonar ability.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forget where I was going with that, but yeah, there was more to that, but yeah, crazy.
It brings like a more sinister element to the offshore wind farms and stuff too, doesn't it? That's fucking with the whales.
Definitely. And the military exercises they're doing with the sonar. Yeah.
Well, I've never seen the whales like, I mean, I've only been up here a few years, but I've never seen it. They were not like this in previous years. The last 2 weeks, they are like just jumping out of the water everywhere. Everyone's just down watching them. They're all fucking
Wow.
like 5 meters out of the water. I've never seen
Wow.
that many. Yeah, crazy. So something's going on.
Yeah,
Something
watch the water, watch the
watch the
whales.
water. Yeah. And
Watch
I
the
just
whales.
thought, and on the, because and as much as this all does jump around, but again, I'm going to bring it back to, we just talked about the 2020 and something was activated, something changed. And then the rising lion that's just been declared for the Iran-Israel. And then the notation of the Exodus coming to Melbourne in particular, and the use of the word, was it redland? Redhead. No, beachhead. Sorry,
Yeah.
beachhead. So implying war again. So you're bringing back this war. So I just thought this is from a different chat that I had about asking Chad about the rising lion, but just the part of it that I was going to touch on is the part it mentions about the return, this whole process and the definition behind the rising lion is rising lion also implies the return of the rightful king or the sovereign soul reclaiming the throne, whether personal or planetary. In prophetic or mythic terms, it can signal a new age, which we know, when divine rulership or cosmic justice is re-established, such as the age of Aquarius balanced by Leo polarity. Aquarius and Leo act. Final bit of that versus the Atlantean symbolism. In Egyptian mysticism, the lion is connected to, is it Shemet? The lion-headed solar goddess, wrath, healing, and purification. The rising lion can mean return to the ancient power, soul of feminine energy, or a cataclysmic clearing to restore cosmic balance, especially in connection to a Tiamat type goddess energy or planetary resets, which is exactly what we're talking about. And if that's the indigenous getting their sovereignty and reclaiming this land right back, but there's a war that's going to happen here first. So that spiritual war is going to play out. And it would make sense that it plays out here because a lot of tragedy happened here probably in the most recent reset.
And Donovan, remember we had those chat about Australia having the 369 tribes and the 369 rivers and like, and we were like suggesting that Australia itself is a microcosm of the whole, like all the land masses is all into it. So you're going to see it all in Australia. So I think it gives more credence to that too, as well as the Lion King, because that's the whole story of the Lion King. It is.
Yeah.
It's like he has the Exodus. He leaves. The father dies. It gets taken over by these people that aren't from there, and then
Yeah.
there's a massive war, and then he ends up and he reclaims the throne as the king after the destruction of like Pride Rock.
Yeah. I mean, there's got to be some explanations to why they've put these goddesses and 4 lions in chariots on a war memorial for Anzacs. It has nothing to do with Australia, the war itself, nothing at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's almost the summation of this whole thing, isn't it? The one thing we pretty sure we've proven that building is not about Anzacs.
No,
It's
not in the way they depict it to be. No.
I think people have taken to it quite well that have listened to Nikki because there's been a lot of people comment that have said, "Oh, you know, my grandfather was in the war, my great grand whatever," and a lot of Aussies with our lineage have got that story. But I think like people have understood like where we're going with that. There hasn't been a disrespect. It's not a
No.
disrespecting the Anzacs in any way. We're just pointing out what it is.
No, exactly. And it's not a disrespect to them because they've been, what we're highlighting is that they were the ones the most misled and still are. They're the ones sent to do all this stuff for them. They're told under a different pretext. I mean, probably the later wars now, because we now know the stories of the earlier ones. I've got a better understanding that perhaps you are defending your country to a degree. But the early World War One, there's no way they knew what they were going for.
But only, what about this for a theory? That there is no other Australian event that you could replicate a building to have such meaning for other than that. So without that event, you couldn't have had the building either, even if that's not what it's for. That's what's being used to charge it as well.
Exactly. And then to never question it, because that's what, like exactly what you said, everybody knows someone that went to a war, so hence it's a very sacred thing to talk about in a light other than what it's depicted to be, because exactly what you said, it would deem to be disrespectful, even though that's not where the intention is at all. But that's why they do it, because then everyone's got a personal emotional connection to it and what it should be or what they believe it to be, while they go and often do something else with it.
If you did like a full shrine presentation, do you reckon it'd be like a full day? Would it be like a 6-hour job?
Oh, probably. I don't know.
Three
I end up
days.
going in all sorts of different avenues, and then we're
I'm
talking
just
about
thinking,
whale shit.
everywhere we've gone. I'm thinking everywhere we've gone with this. It's just crazy.
So I said, how do you go from looking into granite to ending up with whale shit with the royal string cells in it?
Do you know the thing though, like, because if it's like under like what I said, if it's the world naval, it's the center point of understanding everything. So that's why you're going to extrapolate all these other things from it, because the world naval contains everything. Do you know what I mean? So that it's actually an endless study.
Yeah.
It feels like that. And back to your world naval and what I was saying about East and West, I also went down this little rabbit hole where I went, okay, so we're talking about the Middle East in all the prophecies, right? The Middle East. I'm like, Middle East of what? So I went, well, what's the center of Victoria? Guess what I got? Like GPS wise, what's the center of Victoria? Bendigo.
Yeah.
Right.
I've been to the spot. There's actually a marking. It says this is the geospatial center of Victoria. Yeah.
Oh, I did not know that.
It's just out of town. Just out of town. It says you are at the center point of Victoria. There's like a little cross. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Oh wow, that's confirmation.
Which is weird because it's a pretty weird shaped kind of state, but that's where they mark the center as is Bendigo. Yeah.
Yeah, but the one that I can't get over, my latest one, was depending on which direction, which angle, which lens of perception you're looking at the shrine, and you get it best from those aerial views, right? That's where I saw the double cross, and I'm like, I've seen that before. Where's that? And Zelda reminded me, it's the Hierophant. It's in the Hierophant card, right? And when you look up what Hierophant actually represents, it represents institutions, religions, priests and authority figures and belief systems and
compliance.
That's right. And if you get the Hierophant,
is the Hierophant Taurus?
If you not sure.
Anyway, yeah, go on.
Not sure, but in reverse, it's like kicking back at authority, religion, belief systems, indoctrination, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so there it is again. So depending on which angle and lens of perception you have and how you're looking at the shrine, you will get either that or that. You know what I'm saying? So the shrine will be different things to different people, depending on their own sort of lens of perception, how they're looking at things.
How they say it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then you can charge if you want to use it as a device to like charge all that energy, then you're going to get whatever people want to put onto it, almost like it's a like when Obama ran with like hope, everyone just projected what they thought hope was onto him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Well, should we leave it at that?
Yep.
Well, we'll have to do this again. It's been fun.
Definitely.
Now I've got to make a little cool intro.
The one thing you got to chuck in though, Donovan, the world card. Remember you brought up the world card, which was on was it the Time magazine in 2017 for Trump?
Oh my God, yeah, that too.
You explain the world card because I'm looking at going, that's the shrine.
I'll put a picture up of it.
Yeah. But that was on the cover of I think it was 2017 Time magazine. But
no,
Trump's incoming.
The Economist.
Oh, it's The Economist, sorry, yeah.
Right, and they
did. Oh, is that the one you just? Yeah.
2017's got this full layout of major arcana tarot cards, but it's using like images of Trump and stuff in it.
Yeah.
And it ends in the star card, which is slightly skew if compared to the rest of them lined up perfectly. And it tells this whole story of what looks like is being played out. And I'm like, I think there's someone awake over there at The Economist, because they're like, it's very predictive.
Yeah. But the world card shows the shrine. Like, it just looks like, so you've got a pyramid on one side, you've got a Parthenon on the other, with obviously the combination of the two, which is the shrine, the Parthenon at the base, pyramid top. It had a computer and a tablet, didn't it? So your Ark of the Covenant tablet.
I'm trying to look at it now, yeah.
And the other side was a computer. And above that was, Donovan, do you remember what's on the top of that one?
Hang on, I'm having a look. Yeah, there's it's hard to zoom in. Yeah, the pyramid. There's a book.
Bring it up.
Oh, do you want me to get
There's a book and a tablet. There's a computer and...
I'm going to share it, but I'll edit it into the video. Hang on.
Perfect. Because we all looked at that and thought...
Can you see this?
Yes, that one.
Oh, I can't say. Oh, here. Yeah, that was it. Yeah. And
there's also a bit more at the top. I think it's missing.
Yep. So we had the shrine, and we've got the Parthenon and the Pyramid of Giza, and we've got a book.
So you've got but the masks.
You got like the theatre masks.
Yes, exactly.
And that's right. And it's like a web, surrounded by a web.
Yeah.
Yep.
Under the vortex, but then you've got it's like the mask, so the theatre, the show, plus the scripted Bible. And I think above it, it's got the tablet and a computer. So a tablet like the Ark of the Covenant, the 10 Commandments on one side, a stone tablet, and a laptop on the other side.
Yeah.
What is it? Yeah, fucking wild.
And you got the sun coming in from the top, and you've also got the crescent moon upside down there as well. So you've got the sun religions and the moon religions.
Oh, really? Oh, well, that's Christianity and Islam, right?
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I don't pray for suffering or anything like that. And I've had to come to terms where there's a lot of things in the world that are just going to play out, and there's fucking not much we can do about it. But it is incredible to the day when I woke up and I saw BB's talk, and he was talking about we cannot stand for Iran has a nuclear weapon. I thought I was watching the one from 5 years, because he's done this forever. And I remember watching him 12 years ago when he was doing it then, and going, oh fuck, we're going to war now. And I'm like, he's just doing it again. I'm like, no, they've actually done it. And it's so crazy I'm like, a part of me is relief. It's like, oh, thank God they're finally
doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what Zelda and me and Nikki keep saying. Oh, whatever you're going to just get on with it. Let's just get this done.
It's not like saying I want people to die, but it's like,
no.
Okay, if this is going to happen, just do it.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, that's a whole other talk. Actually, I've got to talk. Actually, Donovan, you're going to come on. We're going to do a whole chat on Q.
Oh,
cool.
Really?
Do it. Yeah.
You might want to get someone a bit more qualified than me.
I'm just that.
I'm not that qualified with it, but
because Trump he did a post the other day, just rubbing it in, and he's done the 3 main Q quotes.
Yeah, where we go one, we go all.
He's done all 3.
What was the other one? The other 2?
Nothing can stop what's coming.
That's right. Yeah,
and I don't know the 3 main quotes.
Yeah, and it's can you imagine in his first term if he had to put something like that on? They would have gone mental over that.
But that's what I mean. There was no response. And the other one is people forget Kash Patel, the current FBI director, was a regular on the X-22 report.
Yeah.
And they're going, oh, Q's bullshit. I'm like, hang on. You had the FBI director that was on the most popular Q channel multiple times. So they're either playing it out as massive suckers, or they're doing something.
Yeah. No, and I've got mates that are on all extreme sides of that spectrum.
Yeah.
So I've got mates that are like, oh, Don, you've fallen for, because I sit neutral in the middle. these days I'm just a witness, right? And I just try to sit in that 0 point, and I'm like, the best position is to have no position at all, pretty much, to navigate what's going on right now. But I've got the guys that are like, nah, Trump's ushering us straight into the New World Order through the Q movement, MAGA, blah, blah, blah. And I've got the people on the opposite going, no, it's amazing. Like, just wait, because the executive orders, it's all done. It's all just going to play out. You know, I've got all these people around me on all different parts of that spectrum. And I actually love just, what do you got? What do you think? How do you feel? You know, pretty much what we're doing with the shrine. Same thing. I'm just like,
I'm not for either side, and like I've given all sides thoughts, and I'm like, sometimes I'm like, oh, we're just a manipulator's party trick, aren't we? We're just sitting in the middle, going, motherfuckers, they're just fucking with us.
Well, at least we're having fun in the meantime.
Exactly, we're staying neutral to a large degree, so
yeah, exactly.
Well,
thanks, guys.
I'll probably chuck it up tomorrow.
Yep, cool.
Should I do it as a live again?
Oh, why not? Why not?
They're always good fun.
No worries. All right, we'll see you next time.
Okay, see ya.
Thanks, guys.
See you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.